All right. Welcome back to another episode of the All American Hoops podcast. This is episode 119. Joining me for the first time, and I want to say about a month, John. I want to say it's been that long. I don't know when the last time was. But the first time in about a month are my older brother, John Driscoll.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for having me. I think I was trying to think about that earlier. I should probably check my email to see when the last time, but it feels like it's been about a year.
It has been a while, yeah. Well, because last week was the first time. It was the first time in like 3 weeks for myself because I was out of the state, but yeah, we'll definitely thrilled to have you back on. But unfortunately for us, our younger brother Matt Driscoll can't make it tonight. But we got a great sub tonight. We got joining us once again, first time since March of 2024. It was episode 11, and it was also the first time that we went live via the Sports Fluent Media. So we're very happy to have our friend Pete Foreman back.
All right. Yep. Appreciate that, Chris. Glad to be back, and can't wait to get going.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got a awesome show ahead of us. We got a lot of things to cover. However, first thing we're going to do, as we do per usual, we're going to wish a happy birthday to all of the legends, quote unquote, for some of these players throughout sports. In the NBA, happy birthday to the best center of all time, top 3 player all time, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Louis Lindor. Happy birthday to Luol Deng, Boris Diaw, Reggie Jackson, and Wendell Carter Jr. So pretty stacked slate today. In baseball, there's one Hall of Famer, Paul Wainer. I've never seen him before. Yeah, I think it was because he was born in 1909. But the other one being Nolan Arenado, probably the best defensive third baseman of all time. And for football, give me 1 second, guys, because I'm gonna do something real quick, which I usually never do. So this is what I usually do for when I do when I go through the birthdays for football, because I don't know who anyone is. So I usually sort it by weighted by career, and then by like Pro Bowls. Are you familiar with any of these players?
Jonathan Vilma? Yeah.
I'm muted. Yeah, Jonathan Vilma.
Okay.
Giants legend.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, I think, right?
Was he on the Super Bowl team?
Yeah, 2004 to 2013. Hold on, let's see what years he played.
Okay. Yeah.
John Cassidy is shaking his fist at this right now.
Jonathan Vilma, it says born 1982. That's got to be. He still plays today. He was on the Saints, right?
Well,
it says 2014 to 2013. Oh, 2004 to 2013.
2004.
Yeah, 2004 to 2013in. So
I definitely know Jonathan Vilma, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. Okay, maybe he didn't play for the Giants.
I was gonna say, maybe you think about someone else, but the only one that I was familiar with was Night Train Lane, and last week was even worse. Last week is even worse because Graham Gano was the only player that I was familiar with for his birthday, but yeah, so pretty brutal back-to-back weeks for wishing NFL players happy birthday because I'm well aware that my football knowledge is very slim compared to basketball and baseball, but that being said, it's been a bad couple weeks for like my football knowledge and knowing who it is. But regardless, happy birthday to anyone else out there, but especially to these athletes.
Brutal return from me because I just announced that he was a Super Bowl champion with the Giants. He never played for them.
No, that's okay.
But he does call. I think he's a Fox color commentator.
Okay.
So he must call a lot of Giants games.
Yeah.
Played for the Jets and the Saints. He's actually really good on the Jets. Jeez.
Okay. Awesome. So, like I mentioned, last time that Peter was on here was March of 2024. And I'm trying to think what the topic was. I think we talked about the MVP candidates. I think we did a Would You Rather with Shay. We did something else. I forgot what, but it was a fun show all in all. And if I'm not mistaken, Peter, I'm pretty sure you didn't look over the agenda before like 10 minutes before that show. If I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. Granted, in 2024, I was my ball knowledge was a little bit better than where it's at right now. So we're gonna see how this turns out. But yeah,
that's all okay. That's all okay. We're happy to have you anyway. Well, let's dive right in because we're gonna talk about the play-in tournament. We're gonna give our player predictions, but before we do that, we're gonna cover some news that was released today, and that is that. Officially, Luka Doncic and Cade Cunningham were their appeal for putting in for NBA awards was granted by the NBA and the Basketball Players Association. Anthony Edwards put his in, but was rejected. I think that Devin Booker also might have put his in. I don't know if he did or not, but even if he did, he would have been rejected too. So, but I guess I'll take a step back actually. So for those of you who don't know, the NBA has the rule to where every player has to play at least 65 games in order to be eligible for an award, and I believe 63 of those games have to be at least 20 minutes, and then at least 2 of those games has to be in between 15 and 20 minutes. So those are the rules. Cade Cunningham had the unfortunate situation to where he was at 61 games, and then just beginning of a game, his lungs collapsed, but then he was able to recover, come back, and then get up to 64 games. The league said, okay, you know what? You played awesome all year long. You were committed, but then you just had a very unfortunate circumstance. So we're going to give this to you. Luka Doncic, on the other hand, he was a little bit different because he was injured at the beginning of the year, played a long stretch of time, missed 2 games in the middle due to the birth of his child, and then end of the season, he strained his hamstring. So he was at 63 games himself, I believe. But maybe it was 64. But league says to him, okay, you know what? Same thing here. At the end of the day, you would have had the 65 game requirements if you didn't have to miss 2 games to fly to Slovenia to see the birth of your child. Yeah, so like, so that's what that is. It's funny because I was listening to Bill Simmons the other day. It wasn't just Bill, I think it was other people that say like the NBA definitely doesn't care about podcasters and like other things because most podcasters have done their award shows by now, and most of them, including myself last week, did it based on the fact that Cade Cunningham wasn't going to be eligible for awards. I said like I'm assuming that Luka was, but I did not think that Cade was going to be. So, John, I just want to know your thoughts on the situation. Do you think that the NBA made the right decision here, or do you think that maybe one or the other? What are your thoughts?
I think the NBA kind of backed themselves into a corner here. I think we talked about it on the podcast before, when they came out with this rule, we liked the idea of it because we thought it was targeting players such as, Kawhi and Joel Embiid, who were kind of taking advantage of the rest days and stuff. But now you're seeing it more and more this year. Sometimes you have freak injuries to players that do technically play that, they play 75 games. They play like, an acceptable amount of games, and sometimes stuff just happens. I think they're in a bad spot here because now you have the league deciding what is a, relevant or not relevant injury, what's like not a basketball injury, what's like, Luka missing 2 games to fly to Slovenia to see the birth of his child. Cade with a collapsed lung, which I think are valid, right? Like I think them being available to win these awards are valid. But like if I'm a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, like I'm pretty upset about Anthony Edwards not being included in this group. He lost his appeal. He's been battling a knee injury for a while. I think he missed 11 or 14. I can't remember how many games he missed. But then he also had a couple games that he missed throughout the year because he had like a virus, like a stomach virus, which to me does not sound like a basketball injury. So if you're gonna like expand these like appeals, and you're gonna make I guess exceptions for people, it has to be like standard across the board. So I think, while I do think Cade and Luka do, they should win those awards, they should be eligible for those awards, I think Anthony Edwards should be as well.
Absolutely. Pete, anything on your end? Yeah, agree, disagree?
Yeah, I would agree with I believe that like Luka and Cade Cunningham like deserve to be eligible to receive these rewards. I think the issue, kind of along the same lines what John was saying, I might have like a slightly different take, but I think the issue for me is like the actual rule itself. Like I know it was designed to really prevent players from like resting and not playing. But now if we're gonna, like John, like you said, like back yourself into a corner, if you're gonna give some exceptions but not give others, like I don't like that. Like, I understand that there's a lot of gray area in between that, but find a better way to, not to ensure that the best players in the league aren't just resting for no reason, that they're not just sitting out for no reason. I don't think the 65 game, because then you're putting a hard number on it. And, like you just mentioned, like there's extenuating circumstances, the Anthony Edwards example. I just personally, I don't like the rule at all to begin with. Like, I understand why they did it at the time. I got it, and I was actually a fan. But like now that we're here, it's like, oh well, you're gonna force yourself to play an extra game because you want to get to that 65 mark. That I don't believe in that.
It's a tough situation, mainly just because so I do my show on Wednesday nights with Fluent and Chill and Jalen and Nori. And Fluence is very much it very much disagrees with you, Peter. He's like very much on the side of all throughout history we've given awards to players who play most of the games. Like, you go through it, maybe there's like one or two guys that come in like 15th place for like the last All NBA team plays under 65. So there's always going to be exceptions to the rule. And his argument was that this year was going to be a weird year to where like certain players were going to be eligible instead. So okay, so but yeah, I agree with everything you said, Peter, in that it gave it was a great idea at the time as far as it goes for giving players incentive to play. But I almost feel like I almost feel like that they almost misdiagnosed the situation. Like, I'm definitely not saying that like the league doesn't have a load management problem. Maybe not, given that. I'm not gonna go too into specifics, but like there definitely has been times where like people travel across the country to see Giannis play, and just for him not to play in a game that he's not injured. But with that being said, for the most part, when players are healthy, they want to play. So it's not so much the players that they were targeting; it was more so the organizations. However, the players were the ones suffering, given that they're having these injuries now, and they're not going to be eligible to play. So, given that Luka and Cade were so close, I think is why they did that. Like, Ants, I think, played 60 or 61 games, which is why I think they said, okay, I know you had like those scenarios, but however, neither of them were life changing. And also, you played fewer games than them, even though I'm pretty sure Ant played like less than 100 minutes less than Cade, by the way. So that's the other thing. But like I'm wondering if like Ant's not winning his appeal is going to affect anything, because Ant is like known to be like an Iron Man type player, to where he plays every game and when he's out there. So yeah, like he's probably, I know that Chris Finch, head coach, was very pissed, and I can only imagine that Ant's a super competitive guy is going to be as pissed as anyone else. So. We'll definitely dive more into that, but I'm definitely interested to see how much this lights a fire under Ant, to see if how much he wants to come back for the playoffs. But it's definitely an interesting discussion. I'll just update the people that were watching the show last week. So last week I did not have Cade on my ballot. However, now that he's eligible, I'm putting him on my ballot. So my first team is going to remain the same. So my first team All-NBA, I have Shea, Luka, Jokic, Wemby, and Jaylen Brown. My second team at the time was Tyrese Maxey. It was Tyrese Maxey, Donovan Mitchell. Who are the Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant. The last guy was Jamal Murray. I'm dropping him down to third team and then putting Cade in that spot. So then my third team would be Cade. So my third team would be Jamal Murray, Jalen Brunson, Jalen Duren, Jalen Johnson, and Scotty Barnes. But however, I am going to put. I would. Sorry, last week was James Harden. However, now that Cade Cunningham is in the mix, James Harden would be booted out. So someone's going to hurt from this, and it's going to be James Harden in my scenario. So. However, also LaMelo Ball was someone I considered as well, but he's someone that likely won't be considered by most people. So, we were talking about how this is good, but however, those that are going to be in 15th, 16th, and 17th place for the awards are definitely the most pissed ahead of everyone, because they're not going to be awarded anymore. But yeah, you can't make everyone happy for sure. Yeah, but anyway, enough awards talk for now. Let's talk some actual basketball now. So we're gonna start off just by diving into the play-in tournaments. So and what's been going on so far. So I'm not gonna, we're not gonna dive into like what the play-in tournament is. Like it's been 6 years at this point already. But I'm someone who is, for the most part, anti-play-in tournament. I think that I think that team plays 82 games. They should be the top 8 teams in each conference. But anyone who watches these games know that this is amazing basketball being played. We'll just go in chronological order. We'll start off with the Hornets versus the Heat. So the Hornets beat the Heat in the 9-10 matchup. The Hornets were the home team. It was pretty hard fought battle most of the game. The Hornets were up for. The Heat were up for most of it. The Hornets came back. It was back and forth for a little bit. Game went into overtime. And then LaMelo Ball hits a shot with about 6 seconds left to win it. He had no timeouts. And definitely one of the crazier games of the season for sure. And we saw and it was really encouraging for the Hornets, especially because both LaMelo and Nibble did not play well games, but at the end of the day, they were still able to close it out. So I know the Hornets were the 9 seed, but I definitely think they're much better than the 9 seed. But they'll be playing the Magic tomorrow night. We'll dive into them later. But John, any takeaways on this game?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think that the only person that was, happier about these games than, Hornets fans was Adam Silver, because everyone's been kind of pounding the door to get him to stop, having these playing games, because I think they rolled it out during COVID, right, where it was kind of like wonky about seeding and how the season finished and everything like that. But these games are going to keep it going for however much longer they want, because it was a great game. I think that I didn't realize how inefficient LaMelo was. I mean, he puts up great, counting numbers. I mean, he put up 30 and I think 10 and 5, which looks awesome. But he also shot 2 of 16 from 3, which I think is like probably the most LaMelo Ball stat ever. But I think the reason why the Hornets won, I mean, because when you think about the Hornets, you think about LaMelo Ball, you think about Nibble. I think the reason why they won is because of their quote unquote role players / starting but role players, and Miles Bridges and Kobe White. Both very efficient games, had great scoring games. Brandon Miller too. I think I love Brandon Miller. He's really, really fun to watch. I think he's a very well-rounded player. I hope that they keep building around him in Charlotte. And I'm excited about this Charlotte Hornets team. I think Charles Lee is a great coach. He comes from the coaching tree of, whether you call it Brad Stevens or Joe Mazzulla. But I think that, and they play tomorrow night, right? They play the Magic tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting one. I think it's like a crash course of one team overperforming and one team underperforming. So we'll see what, unstoppable force meets immovable object. We'll see.
That's right.
Yeah, I would. I'm not a big fan of LaMelo Ball, to be honest. He rubs me the wrong way. Also, just him sweeping the leg on Bam Adebayo, like, you can say it was unintentional. Intentional. I'm gonna believe that it was intentional. It looked pretty intentional to me. And I saw a clip of him doing something similar to Bam at either earlier this year or maybe another year. But I think I saw on a clip of Bill Simmons, and he said that LaMelo in that game was the least valuable player and the most valuable player.
Yep.
I mean, the way he plays the game, like, he is so freaking talented that, like, he can be so good if he played smart. And that, like, really bothers me. It's like, you're not hitting your threes. Why are you chucking up 16 threes? He also, at the end of the game too, like, yes, he had the game-winning field goal. He also had the turnover that allowed the Heat to get back into it. And then he also fouled Tyler Hero on that three-pointer, which gave Hero 3 free throw attempts to give them the lead in the first place. So I like the core of the Hornets. Like, I like Nibble. I like Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges. Like, I think they have a great base, but I think for them to realize their true potential, LaMelo has to just really, really mature as a basketball player in general. I think they'll be good enough. And they had a terrible shooting night. I doubt they're going to have 2 terrible shooting nights in a row, but at least between LaMelo and Conchinipple. So I would actually pick them to beat the Magic. But beyond that, I mean, I think the Pistons have their battle scars in the playoffs a little bit. And I think the Charlotte's kind of in a rude awakening for when the playoffs like really start. Again, not the play-in tournament.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Pete. Honestly, yeah, I'm well on the record talking about my distaste for LaMelo Ball's game. I definitely think that this year was probably his best career year as far as it goes for his playmaking and his like turnover rates. So like that part's a good sign for sure, and also the fact that he has been playing in more games. But all that being said, like it's just everything you said. Like maybe like it's just a matter of him growing up. But that being said, it's year 6 now for him. So it's like he's still very young. So I'm not saying that like time is ticking by any stretch of the means. But what I am saying is that usually by year 5, we know who a player is. And I'm not saying he can't get better. I'm not saying there are certain things that he can, but the writing is usually on the wall by the time you get to year 5, year 6, and say, okay, so this is who this player is. Let's see how long he rides it out for. So I don't know if I don't know if I'm going to go as far to say this is LaMelo Ball's ceiling, but it felt like all went well for this year for the Hornets, especially for how what do you call it? Especially goes for like how well they did in the second half of the season. So but that all being said, I'm a big Conchinipple guy. I picked him for Rookie of the Year. I'm a big Brandon Miller guy. I'm pretty sure that I picked him for. Did I pick him for most improved? I think I picked him for most improved player going into this year. He's not going to win it, but he's someone that you know what I actually did at the beginning of the year. I did rank Brandon Miller ahead of LaMelo Ball, like projecting that didn't happen this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happened within the next year or two. But yeah, all in all, we'll give our predictions in a little bit, but like before that, I just want to go through the other play-in tournament games real quick. So one of them being the Blazers against the Suns. So the Blazers just narrowly beat the Suns 114-110. Denny Avdija continuing to completely light it up. I know everyone's saying that like, oh, he's not a playoff performer. He's not all that. He's a free throw merchant and everything, but he played one hell of a game. I think he had 41, 7, and 12 on great efficiency. So yeah, he's not the best playmaker or anything, but he's still an efficient, a great scorer, and like grabs a lot of rebounds. And just someone that I believe in for sure. So he was the main reason they won, but then they also ran up against the Suns. And even though they put up a great fight, between Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green, both having great games, but they lost because Devin Booker, I believe, only had 17 and 7 or something along those lines. Not that. He was 7 for 17 in the field. That's where I got that. So 22 points on 7 of 17 from the field, -3. So I'm someone who I've been on both sides of the fence regarding Devin Booker. Like I think he's an elite player. I still think he's an elite player. I think you could plug him into any system next to like another great player. I think he'd be one of the best. I think he's one of the most pluggable players in the league. I think he would be the best number 2 option in the league outside of maybe LeBron or like Jaylen Brown. But with that all being said, it has been a disappointing couple of years for Booker. Like I know that last year wasn't the best case scenario. Like both he and Durant had good seasons, but it was the outside cast that didn't do well. This year, the outside cast does do well, but you still fail to get past the 7-8 playing tournament. So like they still have tomorrow to beat the Warriors, but all in all, that's it has been pretty disappointing for Devin Booker. Not so much for the Suns because I was expecting the Suns to be worse than they were this year. But I'm not sure what to expect regarding the Suns team, John.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of disappointing. I mean, just to quickly talk about the Blazers, I think we were all we were rooting for them. I really like obviously I like Drew Holiday and Rob Williams. But Denny Avdija, he's 12 assists on 41 points too, and he only took 22 shots. So just an incredibly impressive game from him. And I think they barely got anything from Donovan Clingan, but I think they will in the future. He's a great young big man. But just to go off of what you said about the Suns. Devin Booker was the 3rd best guy on his team. in this game.
Yeah.
Very inefficient. He only took 2 threes. He took 13 free throws, missed 5 of them. So I don't know where you go. I mean, like, I think Devin Booker, like you said, is one of the more pluggable players in the league. I think we even talked about it what year did you start this podcast, Chris? 2023, 22, 23.
November 23, yeah. So
23, yeah. And we talked about, I think that was either the year or just before the Bradley Beal trade to the Suns. It totally ruined their entire flow. And I don't know where you go from that. I think you keep Booker, but you don't really have much else to work with. And granted, they could, beat the Warriors on Friday and then, go on and run the playoffs. But yeah, I don't know. Devin Booker got what he needed from his 2 and 3, and then he did not. He didn't really provide as a 1.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I haven't paid. I don't really know the Suns as well this year, but just focusing on like Devin Booker alone, like he's honestly like one of my favorite players to watch. I think he, like the way that he plays like so effortlessly is fantastic. But I think you pointed it out, John. Like, where do you think that the Bradley Beal trade ranks in like worst trades in sports history? That is one of the worst trades ever.
It was on Father's Day too. So I remember where I remember where I was there for that. So I'm trying to think. So obviously the Luka trade is worse. Obviously
of course.
So like that's number 1. Number 2 is probably and I know this is kind of hindsight 2020 given the Shea trade to the for Paul George and or Shea and $1 million picks for Paul George was horrible, but hindsight 2020.
Yeah, at the time it wasn't as crazy. Like I remember,
no, it wasn't. But like
I remember thinking like when they traded for Bradley Beal, and I was like, why are they getting another ball dominant player that's not going to be good off ball when you have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant? Like to me, even at the time, it didn't make any sense.
So yeah, I don't know what to do with the Suns because like I know everyone blames Kevin Durant last year because it's like the whole like narrative like, oh, every team he joins they get worse and every team he leaves they get better. But I think it's a lot more nuanced than that. Like I definitely blame the Suns front office a lot more. And I don't know, maybe you could have gotten more for Kevin Durant, but and let me be clear, I still think they should hold on to Devin Booker because I don't think they should totally tank, and I also don't think his value is his best. But that being said, like we might have a different discussion next week if the Suns win tomorrow night and then they take a game or 2 off the Thunder. So who knows? Maybe they'll make like another like Dylan Brooks. I think really has high trade value now, or unless he's a free agent. But Dylan Brooks, wherever he goes, the team gets better. So maybe they can trade him like another piece or 2 for like a very solid player. Yeah, like they don't have the pieces to trade for Giannis, but I could definitely see them going in for other trades. I don't even know if they have their picks, honestly. Now that I'm saying that out loud, but probably not. But yeah, we'll see what has to happen there. But they're playing the Warriors, which again will happen to them later. But yeah, and then we'll get into last night's games, which was the Sixers beat the Magic in their early game. Sidebar, I checked on Monday Monday. I was like, you know what, the Sixers are home and like they're relatively close. I had a good time the last time I went. This game has Celtics implications. Maybe I'll go. There were tickets out there for under $30. I kind of wish that I went. It was like
it's a great game.
It was a really good game. That I kind of wish I went, but then again, I didn't have to miss my show. But yeah, the Sixers came out on top. And yeah, like I'll just say what everyone else is saying. Paolo Banchero has been getting dogpiled more than like. I don't want to say more than any player that I know because obviously we've seen worse. On social media, I think the worst night ever on social media was probably as far as it goes for slandering a player's performance was probably when the Clippers blew the 3-1 lead to the Nuggets in the bubble. I think that was probably the worst night ever. I don't know what it was after that, but I don't see a single person standing up for Paolo Banchero though, and if I'm being honest, I think most of it is kind of warranted because I'm someone who defended Paolo Banchero to be earlier in his career. I'm someone who's a little lower than him heading into the year, and and the reason I'm talking about we'll talk about the Sixers later when we talk about the matching up with the Celtics. But like I'm focusing more on the Magic now, just because where do they like they're going to play the Hornets, so who knows if they win, and then I don't know, maybe they put up a good fight against the Pistons, but it's looking very, very, very hard to be optimistic about the Magic now, especially given that the reports already came out saying like, oh yeah, by the way, Jamal Mosley, you're going to get fired no matter what happens. So he's probably saying, all right, fuck me, why am I going to coach this team then? So things look pretty brutal for the Magic, and I don't see it getting better unless they shake things up there.
And they just gave away a bunch of picks for Desmond Bane too, right?
They sure did.
Yeah.
Anything else, Sean, or did I cover most of it?
No, I think with the Magic, it's like I'm not like gonna cry and stomp my feet because I'm a Celtics fan of the East, so I'm not really upset that they're doing this, but like it's disappointing as like an NBA fan. You really thought that like this was the turning point year, right? Like the past 2 years, they've kind of like floated on that playoff bubble. Paulo was getting older, Franz was getting older. They were kind of just a young team, kind of climbing the ranks a little bit. They, I think, they lost to the Celtics last year, but anybody who watched those games knew that they put up a decent fight. And I just think that it's, the expectations for them were so much higher this year, and them not making out of the play-in would be, really, really unfortunate. I'm not sure what you do going from there. So yeah, it's unfortunate as an NBA fan.
Absolutely. So yeah, speaking of, however, we're going to go a completely different direction as far as goes from unfortunate because, hands up, I didn't watch. I watched the first half of the Warriors Clippers game last night, but I get up before at 5:30 every morning for work. So it was unfortunately I had to pick and choose as to which games are important, and I decided this game wasn't important last night, and I deeply regretted it when I woke up this morning and checked. It was one of the best. I'm not as big a fan of Steph Curry as I was prior to 2022, but watching him is still a treat. He is, he's like what. I don't know where I'd rank him in the league right now with perfecting and availability. Probably outside the top 10, but as far as as far as it goes for guys that if I need one game and I need like a band of 5 players to gather together, I'm still taking Steph Curry over pretty much any player in the league except for not Jokic or Shea, but like if I'm building a team, I think that only Jokic or Shea I'm taking over Curry as far as it goes for like a big game scenario. So, absolutely bonkers stuff from Steph Curry in the second half. Our guy, I know he's not with us anymore, but I'm trying to point it to Al Horford. Clutch threes in the fourth. Draymond Green, someone who I don't like personally, but however, someone who's always respected his game and putting together yet again another defensive masterclass against Kawhi Leonard, who a lot of people have making first team All NBA because he's been, and deservedly so. He had his best scoring season of his career and still just as efficient and like not as good as prime Kawhi defense, but like the Clippers won 9-0. They're one of the best teams in the league for the last month and for like the last 3-4 months after they released Chris Paul. So, but I thought the Clippers were going to win this game by a lot for sure, but the Warriors just completely stomped over them in the second half. So, I praise the Warriors enough, and I know that if Matt were here, he'd start yelling at me now. So I'll pass this off to John.
Yeah, I think this overall or this game, it kind of makes me think about the play-in tournament differently than what I had talked about earlier, because I think that these kind of games, maybe I'm just biased or wrong because I don't like the Warriors and I like Kawhi, but I think the Clippers are more talented than the Warriors, or I trust them more in the playoffs. I think they could give whoever they're running against, which I guess would be the Thunder, obviously. I think they give them a little bit more of like a fight, but I guess you could argue that, go back and forth on it. I just want to give a quick shout out to my fantasy basketball team, the Unction's GOAT, Kawhi Leonard, for what a great season. I drafted him late this year, and he played 65 games, was integral in my run to the championship this year. So shout out to Kawhi Leonard. Did he play exactly 65 games this year because of the, I guess, contract incentive story that's been leaking for this year? Probably. But I think I speak for all NBA fans when I say if we can get 65 games of Kawhi Leonard for the rest of his career per year, I think it'd be really happy because he's definitely fun to watch. And yeah, I'm rooting for the Suns smart because fuck the Warriors, respectfully.
I'm a huge Steph Curry fan, so I will definitely be rooting for the Warriors when I'm watching the game tomorrow night. I mean, Curry just how can you not just like watching him play? Like there's not anyone that I've ever watched that I enjoy just watching play the game of basketball more. Primarily just because like he always is making the right decisions. I mean, it's like I feel like you know. Just repeating what people have been saying for like 10 years now at this point. It's like he's freaking 37 years old and he doesn't stop moving. He's running off ball. He's running off screens. He's doing it with the ball in his hands. Like he can just do everything. And then the shot making is just unbelievably good. So like, I'm with you, John. Like any more of stars playing, I'm not going to complain about it. Because if we didn't have the playing tournament, we wouldn't have get to see Curry do what he did last night. Or potentially more of him in the playoffs. But at the same time, I also think it's like, well, the Warriors had a losing record. And I think I was taking a look at like standings before. I want to say they had like 6 or 7 less wins than the Clippers, I think, on the year. It's like a team like that doesn't, as much as I love to watch them play, a team like that doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs in my books, especially when, you already have half the league making the playoffs anyway. But I mean, I don't know. I don't care when it comes to Steph Curry because I will definitely, fanboy him and root for him in any game he's playing in. So.
So, yeah, good stuff, guys. All right. So now that we're done with like reviewing the games, now we're just gonna give our predictions for the 2 playing games tomorrow night. So first one being Hornets versus the Magic. Yeah, I'll go first for these. So Hornets versus Magic. So, yeah, 2 opposite teams. So like the Hornets have been one of the best teams. Like I would say definitely one of the 5 to 10 best teams in the league since the All-Star break. Maybe even before that. Like I think they've been putting together like historical net ratings, like how much they're blowing teams out and like keeping games close to the ones that they lost. So, yeah, and I know technically the Magic have the better record and everything like that, but that all being said, because of everything that I said earlier, I'm probably gonna take the Hornets in this game because like just because like like I don't think anyone in the Magic is really excited to be there anymore, and you could tell that from you could tell like based on the body language, you could tell based on the reports coming out, and like like I'd be very surprised if the Magic came out victorious in this one.
Yeah, I also have the Hornets here. I think even Pete said it best is like the Hornets didn't really shoot that well. I think it was like 44 and 27 their shooting splits, and they still found a way to win. And I think it's funny because they're the 9 seed. They're going on the road to play against Orlando, and they're 3.5 point favorites. So it's that's what Vegas is telling us here, and yeah, I have the Hornets here, and I think solely because of the better team.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. So, yeah, I think the Hornets. Again, I don't think they're going to shoot nearly as bad. And between Kneppel and LaMelo, I don't think the 2 of them are going to combine for what was it like 2 for 22 or something like that. That's unlikely to happen again. And I think they just have more guys on the team. I mean, on the Magic, you have Bane, you have Paolo, and you have Wagner. And that's about it. I feel like on the Hornets, like their top 6 are all like guys that can go after it and get their own. So I'm going with the Hornets.
We're on the same page there. And then tomorrow we got Warriors versus Suns. I'm going to go with the same reason. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Warriors. Not only do I trust Steph Curry and Draymond Green more than I trust Devin Booker at the end of the day. And I think I think just in a 1-game elimination, I'm gonna take Steph Curry most of that. Obviously I trust Al Horford a ton. and even though the Suns have some guys that are like, yeah, I think Dylan Brooks is experienced, but outside of Brooks and Booker, I just think that I just trust the Warriors a lot more. I think that's the only reason that they have like such a poor record is mainly just because Steph and Butler miss all the time, and the Butler's still not there. But I think if Steph Curry played like 60-something games instead of like 30, he played 33 or 37. I don't remember how many he played, but like if Steph Curry was healthy the entire season, I definitely think they would have been like I don't think they would have been the 60, but maybe like the 7th or 8th. So I definitely think that's because of Steph Curry alone. I think the Warriors are benching the Suns, so I'll take the Warriors.
Taking the Suns because I hate the Warriors.
Fair enough. I'm taking the Warriors. They got the experience between Steph, Horford, Draymond, even Kristaps. They've been in these types of games before. Most of the guys on the Suns, aside from Booker, haven't, from what I know at least.
All right, good stuff. So, yes, so we'll probably go through these playoff predictions pretty quickly. We don't have to, but like we'll just talk about each series, and then we'll do the rounds after that. But we'll see how much time we have. But yeah, regardless, no worries either way. But yeah, we'll go through the East first. So we'll do I think we'll do all of the East and then all of the West, and then we'll do the finals after that. So round 1 is Pistons versus either the Hornets or the Magic. We all predicted the Hornets, so we'll just do that one. So yeah, the Pistons obviously best record in the East, and they played really well without Cade Cunningham. I'm not sure how good Cade Cunningham is going to look. I don't know how well has he played since coming back. I think he played in 3 games, played in 26, 28, and 22 minutes. Wasn't really looking great, or not, shouldn't say looking great, but like at least the stat sheet isn't really letting it up. But I know they have the week off now. They have the week to practice. So all in all, I know the Hornets have like the great offense and everything, but I just think I always think that teams that's 40 something like at the end of the day, like, and I know that upsets happen all the time, but I think at the end of the day, 40 something win teams never beat 60 something win teams, which I think it's technically mid 40s versus early 60s. So I'll take the Pistons in 5. I'll respect what the Hornets have done. I'll give them a game because of how great they've looked in certain moments. But yeah, I'll take the Pistons in
5. I got the Pistons in 4 here. I think the Hornets are playing really good basketball, but the Pistons are just on a different level.
Yeah, I'm going to say I think Pistons in 5. I think the Hornets have one just crazy 3 shooting night one night. They're going to get 1 win, but I think just how good of a collective team that the Pistons are, they don't really stand much of a chance outside of maybe a game or 2.
For sure. Give me 1 second. And the next series we have the Cavs versus the Raptors, and this is one of the more intriguing series out there, mainly just because they're both very different teams. The Cavs are very offensively driven, to where I think that Donovan Mitchell is one of the 10 best offensive players in the league, one of the 10 best overall players in the league, in my opinion, too. James Harden, obviously, I know he's older, but he's still an elite offensive player for sure. Like between his playmaking and still, like he can still get to a spot like as good as anyone in the league. And then the Twin Towers in Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. But then on the Raptors side of it, it's also the matter of, I shouldn't say they're more I feel like they're more defensively focused identity wise. I think that Scotty Barnes is going to make first or second team all defense. But like I said, I had him for my all NBA 3rd team. Might switch Chet out for that instead. But they're very interesting. But I think I saw a stat the other day that came out and said, like, I'm pretty sure that the the Raptors are like 4-14 against like elite offenses, but like have like a much better record against not so good offenses. So I think this will be a 6 or 7 game series, but I'm going to take the Cavs in 7 games because the Raptors, which is a crappy team, but I'm going to trust Donovan Mitchell to pour this one out.
I think at the beginning of the year we went through like each team's rosters and their over under for wins. And I remember saying, I think I was pretty critical of the Raptors. I didn't think they were particularly impressive. I might have even took their under. Chris, you have to check that for me.
I took the under for sure, but
I remember also saying that they have a lot of good individual, like individual good players, right? They didn't have like that, that 1A that could lead you to like a playoff charge or, you know, they just had a bunch of, I wouldn't even say role players because there are a couple of guys that are ticks above role players. Um, but they've surprised me this year. I mean, like Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes had a good year. Like Emmanuel Quickly, I thought had a really, really good year for someone who really kind of was like fading into the background for a while. I do think if there's a team in the top four, or just I guess a team that were to lose their first round matchup against the Raptors, it would be the Cavs. I think the Cavs, maybe it's just in my brain that they've choked or underperformed in the playoffs in the past. That being said, I'm still going to go Cleveland in 6. I just think they're overall the better team. The Raptors, like I said, they don't really have that 1A guy who can like lead a playoff charge. So I'm going with the Cavs.
Yeah, I'm going with the Cavs. I haven't watched enough of the Raptors this year or followed them close enough to really get like a game prediction, but kind of going back to what I was saying with the Warriors, like, the Cavs are a team that has the core of the team, Mitchell, Mobley, and Jared Allen, like have been there together and they've kind of had their battle scars together. And I'm always going to trust a team like that over kind of an up and comer like the Raptors.
This stat's interesting. So since the All-Star break, this isn't even a stat. This is just me pulling up a spreadsheet. But since the All-Star break, the Raptors are 10th in net rating. The Cavs are 12th. However, the Cavs are 18-9 and the Raptors are 14-13. I guess that just shows. I guess maybe that's a clutch stat to which it would make sense. Donovan Mitchell is definitely more clutch than anyone else in that team. So yes, I feel like in that sense, obviously, usually you give it to the team with like a higher net rating at the end of the day, but. I think like come playoff time, usually give it to the team that's like more clutch on the stretch, which I trust Donovan Mitchell a lot more. So, you know what? I actually might. Yeah. I said 7. I'm gonna take the Cavs in 6 instead. I'm not bold enough to say 5, but I'll say 6. Next one, which will definitely be the most viewed series in New Jersey for sure. We got the Knicks versus the Hawks, which is I wouldn't say it's not a rivalry anymore. Even though the mayor of New York just came out and said the reason that the tickets are so expensive was because of Trae Young and everything there. So, yeah,
he's not on the team anymore.
He's not on the team anymore. So, but anyway, this is a very interesting series just because the Knicks are clearly the more talented team, without a doubt. Yeah, Brunson and Cade are better than anyone else on the Hawks. Even if you want to say Jalen Johnson's a great player, I still definitely trust Cade a lot more in the playoffs than Johnson because we haven't seen anything of Johnson. And I know that Cade has his limitations in the playoffs, but I still think he's more talented. He has the size and the stretching the floor. But as far as it goes for playing together, the Knicks starting 5 has been disappointing this year, but I think you mix Mitch Robinson in there. I trust him more than anyone else on the Hawks bench. So, yeah, the Hawks have been an awesome team since they traded Trae Young. I'd have to check, but they are. I know that since the All-Star break, I have it up in front of me right here. They are 4th in net rating, which is awesome, 20-6. So looking like one of the best teams in the league for sure. However, the Knicks have been pretty great too. They're 18-9 as well, 8th in net rating. So I'm pulling up. Yeah, I'm a nerd. I love these advanced stats, but at the end of the day, the playoffs are a game of men, not a game of numbers. So even though the numbers are still extremely important, but there'll be hard fought games, and I definitely trust Jalen Brunson as much. Not as much. I trust Jalen Brunson more than anyone else on the Hawks. Not even close. So I will take the Knicks in 5, but I also think that the Hawks are gonna rough them up every game. So I think it'll be a fun matchup for sure.
Yeah, I think I saw a tweet that was just listing the Hawks' defensive versatility: Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, even even NAW. Like, yeah, it's exciting to think about them on the perimeter and their versatility on defense. But who's scoring for them, right? Like the Knicks are probably going to score about 110, 120 points a night, regardless. Maybe 100 to 115. It's like. Who on the Hawks is matching that volume or that production? I don't really think anybody.
No.
I'm gonna say, as much as I do like this Hawks team, I just think they're missing that one piece. I'm gonna have to say Knicks in 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Knicks in 6. I think the Hawks could definitely give them like a little bit of trouble, especially on the defensive end. And I don't know, I watched like one of their games. Freaking Nikhil Alexander Walker's filthy.
He
Like
is.
when he's going, like he's really really good. Obviously not a 1A, not a Brunson, not a Cat. Like you're right, they don't have anyone on that team. CJ McCollum's definitely solid and can get them buckets here and there, but yeah, I think that the Knicks are gonna pull away, and I think I mean the Knicks' future. I'm definitely a front runner Knicks fan here, but like it's all gonna come down to like what is Cat gonna do? Is he gonna be like a lion, or is he a little house cat? Like
Big purr.
yeah, exactly. He's I don't know. He kind of bothers me, but I'll get to that maybe a little later if we have time.
You're not alone in that either. Yeah, we all picked the Knicks. Yeah, we all picked the Knicks very unsurprisingly. And last one for the last first round series for these, we have the Celtics versus the Sixers. So, yeah, so the Celtics and the Sixers played each other 4 times this year. 3 of them were within the first month. The last one was, again, the second time I'm bringing up the St. Patty's Day parade. It was the same day as the St. Patty's Day parade. So yeah, I think they're 2-2 against each other. But I think that's I think that you can scrap those games as much as you can because Tatum played in 0 of those games. I think Paul George played in 0 of those games, and Embiid played in 1 of those games. So I think you can gain absolutely nothing out of watching out of using those. But all in all, I think this is like I try to be as unbiased as possible because clearly the Celtics have been the better team this year. Record wise, advanced stat wise, players being available wise, even though Tatum hasn't been around. But overall, I trust the Celtics more than the Sixers, and I don't think anyone disagrees with that. The Sixers started to pick it up a little bit towards the end. I'm trying to find where they are. For reason I can't find it, but like yeah, they're like I think they're like in the middle of the pack as far as it goes for how good they've been since the All-Star break. Yeah, like I said, they're 15 and 13 since the All-Star break, 19th in net rating, Celtics top 5 in net rating. But at the end of the day, Joel Embiid is going to miss at least 1 or 2 games. He might be back by game 3. So, however, the Celtics can't fall for the trap again like they did in 2023, where they lost game 1 and then also lost game 4. Embiid was back for that game, but it was they still choked away 2 games that they should have won. So, I definitely think that Joe Mazzulla is much more experienced now. I think that both Tatum, I'm hoping that both Tatum and Brown are gonna learn their lesson from past years to where you just can't blow big leads in earlier series, even if you're confident you're going to pull out in the end. Regardless, it'll affect you down the line. So, I guess I'll say Celtics in 5. But yeah, can they win in 4? Absolutely. But there's always at least one game that's both Tatum and Brown have. It seems like they have CTE. I'll give the Sixers 1 game, but if all goes well, I'm very confident in Celtics' chances this series.
Hey, you took the words out of my mouth. You have to account for the one Celtics CTE game. The only unfortunate thing last year in the Eastern Conference semis is they had 2 CTE games, which put them in the grave before they even went back to New York. So yeah, I have Celtics in 5 here. It'll be interesting to see if Embiid makes a return. I know he was targeting a return of maybe the 3rd game or the 1st game in Philly. The most obvious like NBA narrative like conspiracy is that the Sixers take like 1 of 2 in Boston, and then he makes a return for game 3, and then all the pundits are talking about it. But hopefully that isn't the case. Hopefully the Celtics win the first 2.
Yeah.
I do have the Celtics in 5.
Yeah, I'm with you guys there. I'm just curious because like I know the Celtics, but like who are their bigs right now? Are their bigs big enough and good enough to guard Embiid if he comes back in game 3? Like, what's that going to look like?
It'll likely be. So Neemias Queta is the starting center of the team. So he'll be and he's been really good defensively all season long. He's a big body for sure. As far as it goes for like staggering the minutes with who else might guard him, like obviously they'll double him in certain moments. Like they'll probably have like maybe they'll have Tatum be like the roam guy, which they usually do. They do sometimes. They have and leave the corners open depending on who's on the floor. They also have some other centers like Luka Garza has been pretty solid, and then also Nikola Vucevic, who isn't. He's not really good defensively at all, but they'll probably do this. They'll probably do the thing where they play where they have Vucevic being the one body, and Tatum being the roamer, which I know a lot of teams do today. So, Matthew, you can't skip the pod and then dictate what we get to talk about. You're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait for Rudy Gobert talking until we talk about the West. So sorry. Anyway, Pete, what do you have to say about what's your prediction for Celtics Sixers?
I think it's I think Celtics in 5. If Embiid is coming into this healthy, totally different. I think it could go 7, honestly. But the fact that Embiid is not coming into this healthy, Celtics in 5.
So if Matt is still watching, I do have one thing to say actually to go off topic. Veteran outfielder Mark Hanna asked for his release today from the Rangers to seek big league opportunities somewhere else. Should the Mets go after him?
They're going to bring him back, and everyone's going to lose their mind, and then he's going to bat 140.
It couldn't hurt. They've lost 8 in a row. Bring some fresh blood back. I don't care how much it would annoy me when people talk about how big his heart is when he bats 150. Like if something happens, then bring it back.
Me and Matt bought season tickets this year, and we probably picked the worst season to do that.
Yikes!
But hopefully they turn it around.
They'll turn it around. Yeah, they have to turn it around to an extent at the very least. But 8 in a row is pretty brutal. Anyway, so we'll go. Let's do speed round ish. Even though I'm the one responsible for this, but so Pistons, Cavs. Again, Pistons 1 seed and everything like that. I'll say it on the spot. Cavs are winning this series. They're the more experienced team. I think that they're better coached. I know it'd be really fun seeing JB Bickerstaff back in coaching the Cavs, but I do think that Kenny Atkinson is the better coach, though. I think that Donovan Mitchell is the best player in that series. Yes, he's better than Cade Cunningham, argue a wall. I think Evan Mobley is better than Jalen Duren as well. And James Harden is good in like second round series. It's usually about the third round. Is usually when he runs out of gas. So give me the Cavs in 7. But shout out to the Pistons. They've had a great season.
You have the Cavs beating the Pistons?
Yes.
Okay, I'm willing to take the Pistons.
Okay.
I think if you have a healthy Cade Cunningham, he comes back, gets back to normal. I think that they match up relatively well against the Cavs, and I don't know. I like the way the Pistons are playing ball.
Yeah, I'm with John. I'm going with the Pistons as well. Pretty much same exact reason. All comes down to Cade's looking good, looking healthy, healthy-ish. I think they win that series.
I've been alone in the Donovan Mitchell Island for long enough, so I'm fine with doing that again. All right, next series we got rematch Celtics versus Knicks. Don't want this. Very stressed for this series. If and when it does happen, like I'm imagining it will happen, but obviously both teams are similar and different in their own ways. Obviously, the Knicks brought back everyone, but then they also added some solid role players in Jordan Clarkson, Jose Alvarado, a couple other small pieces here and there. Celtics totally didn't blow up the team, but yeah, they still have the 3 best players in Tatum, Brown, and Derek White. And then even though they got rid of Porzingis, Holiday, and Horford, I also think that those guys weren't as good as they were in 2024. So even though they're definitely more talented than the current team, I also do believe in the Celtics' ability to play better together, which they played awesome in. They played awesome all season long, and everyone was concerned about how Tatum would mess that up. Tatum has mixed well with them tremendously since he's been back, and I think that's going to continue. Not only do I think that's going to continue, I think that Tatum and Brown are going to play much better than they did last season, which I know everyone talks about. They lost their entire supporting cast and everything like that, but I also think that Tatum and Brown, like game 1 and 2, they were not good at all. So I think as long as the Jays are healthy, I think they're going to win the series. So I will take the Celtics in 6 games.
Yeah, I'll just echo you there, Chris. I think I have the Celtics in 6 here as well. I think it'd be foolish to ignore what happened last year. I think the Knicks
Of course.
outplayed them. But overall, I think the Celtics really put themselves in a bad position, especially
Oh yeah.
blowing those first 2 games. It's really hard to come back from that, especially when the first 2 games are at home. And I think, us picking the Celtics is obviously extremely biased, but I also
Oh yeah.
think that it's kind of with the hope that they took that as like a lesson learned rather than just like a forget about it kind of thing. Like I hope they kind of are maybe at least half as upset as I was about that loss, because it lingered for a little bit. But
Oh
um,
yeah. That's for sure.
yeah, so I got the Celtics in 6, but I think it's going to be a bloodbath of a series.
That's for sure.
I'm gonna go Celtics in 7. I
Wow.
think I would like to see the Knicks win. That'd be awesome. But the thing that I don't like about the Knicks right now is just even though Cat's had a really good year, like he's not being as offensively aggressive, and I feel like he's not utilized offensively in the game plan. The way that he should be. I've said this about him for years, but you're a 7-footer. Throw your ass into someone and back them down. Don't be chilling at the 3-point line the entire game. Set a screen, roll. Do the traditional things that a big man should do, and then flare out for the things that you're also really great at. I think, like, I wish he could do that as a player, but I don't think he is going to do that. So for that reason, I'm picking the Celtics.
All right. You're invited back on next week, Peter. So, yeah, for sticking to your morals, but, all right. So, since I'm the only one that picked the Cavs Celtics, I'll go first for this one. But yeah, Cavs Celtics would be a very fun series. Donovan Mitchell always lights up the Celtics. And the Cavs Celtics like last year was a very fun matchup when the Cavs won like 64 games and like I think like all those games came out to be very close. Yeah, this would be a series that I would take the Celtics as well. I think that they've been more consistent all year long. I definitely trust Tatum more than I think even if you say that Tatum and Mitchell are a wash, even if you want to give the edge to Mitchell there because he's been healthy all year long, I trust Jalen more than anyone else on the Cavs, not even close. And even if you just go through like some of the role players on the Cavs, like if it's like a tough series, like battle tested series, I would take the Celtics, especially in like a closing game versus James Harden. So, I definitely trust the Celtics more, especially on the defensive end. Even though I love Evan Mobley, but I definitely think that if it came out to this, I would take the Celtics. I'll say 6 games as well.
And that's over the Cavs, right?
Yeah. So you can dive into your analysis with the Pistons.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really tough opponent for the Celtics. Hopefully, I think the Knicks are a really tough opponent for them as well. I think they're matched up pretty well. Um,
Mhm.
I almost would argue that the Celtics are probably better matched up against Pistons than the Knicks, but matchups really don't tell the whole story all the time. So I think that um, I do have the Celtics in the series. I have the Celtics at 7. I think just when you get to the Eastern Conference Finals, it's season. You're approaching 100 games that year. I really like Cade Cunningham. I think we've been saying it all year is that like we really like the Pistons, but they kind of have to show it to us in the playoffs. And I think a deeper Eastern Conference run and a good series against whoever they face in that would be exactly what we're looking for. But I do have the Celtics in 7.
I'm gonna go Pistons in 7.
Huh?
I mean, just from the little bit that I have watched them, again, I like their kind of tenaciousness on defense, the way that Duren kind of just anchors that team. And I think, I definitely think like the Celtics have that MO, but I don't know if like Joe Mazzulla brings that to the team. I don't know like what players, bring that real physicality level that some of the guys on the Pistons will bring. So kind of like the bad boy Pistons from back in the day. So give me the Pistons in 7.
All right. Gutsy pick for sure. Even though they're the first seed, it'll be an interesting first seed. Sure. All right. So John, you're the only one that picked the Suns to win the. Okay, we'll go West now. So you're the only one that picked the Suns to win tomorrow's game. So why don't you do the Thunder Suns? Even though probably won't take you that long. You're muted.
Thunder in 4.
Okay.
Not really much to say. I think whoever comes out. Actually, it's funny because I picked the Suns, but I think the Warriors might knock a game or two off on the Thunder. But still, Thunder in 4 over the Suns.
Yeah. Totally agree in 4. But if the Warriors had Jimmy Butler, I think this would be an interesting series for sure. I know that John and Matt kind of poo-poo on me every time I bring up Jimmy Butler, but the fact of the matter is that Jimmy Butler was having like an all-star caliber-esque season before he got injured. So if I would say it would be like a hard-fought 6-game series, but I'll say one Steph Curry lights on fire game. So I'll go Thunder in 5.
Yeah, I think that the Thunder are just going to harass Steph Curry 24/7, and they're not going to give him an opportunity. So I'm going to go Thunder in 4.
Makes sense for sure. All right. So next series we got one of the most nostalgic series. We're going to go Rockets versus Lakers. It's funny. I know that the Lakers don't have Luka and Reeves, but I still think I think the Rockets are favored by like I don't know what I didn't see it. What are they 2.5, 3.5 favorites? I think for game 1, which is interesting to say the least. The Rockets are a team that I kind of have a soft spot for, given that I think that their roster is weirdly constructed, but they would be so much better with Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams, which I know when people say, "Oh, Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams, come on," but like. They are perfect for that Rockets team, which is why the Rockets looked so good last year when they had VanVleet and Adams together, mixed in with Alperen Şengün. And this year they're going to drop Kevin Durant on top of that. Granted, it was without Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green, but you take Kevin Durant in that scenario all the time. So the Thunder have looked great for the last month. I don't know. I think they've won like 10 in a row. So And at the end of the day, as much as I trust LeBron James in a big series for sure, and even some of the role guys like Jared Vanderbilt plays good in a role. Rui Hachimura has some good playoff experience at this point. DeAndre Ayton, I don't really believe in a ton, even though he has a finals run, which is playoff experience at the very least. But I don't know, the Rockets are a big teams, and they're like a really athletic team, which I feel like doesn't really work out well for the Lakers team. So. I'll take the Rockets in. I feel like 6 is kind of a cop out because it's right in between 5 and 7. So, I'll say 7, and which I'll say 7 because there's like I feel like we've been having like a lot of LeBron breaking streaks this year. So this would be the first time that LeBron loses a game 7 since 2008 when Paul Pierce and him went head to head.
Just looking through these matchups, the West has some great narrative matchups, man.
Mm-hmm.
And it only gets better the more teams that, the more you go along through the series. I went back and forth here. I actually have the Lakers winning in 7. While I do think the Rockets are better coached, a better defensive team, I think it all really will depend on the health of LeBron and Luka. But I think probably one of my more casual takes is I think sometimes when you get two teams that are, very different but on the same skill level or I guess talent level rather, I tend to lean towards the guys who have done it before. And granted, Kevin Durant's on one side there, but nobody's done it more than LeBron in this league, and Luka on top of that has some playoff success as well, if I'm not mistaken. So very slim, I would say, but I do have the Lakers in 7.
Mm-hmm.
What's the most recent news on Luka right now? Because I know Reeves is pretty much out for the series, but
pretty much. What Luka? I'm trying. I think they said try to be back for game 2. I think is what I saw last. But let me check. I don't know what the latest Luka update is, but I think it's game 2.
Game 2 is when he's shooting to come back. All right, that completely flips what I was going to say then. I'm gonna go. I think even if he comes back, especially with the hamstring. Especially on the offensive end, I think he'll be fine. But I mean, he's never been good at defense, and I think if you have a bad hamstring, you're going to be even worse. So I'm going to go Rockets in 7 here, primarily just because I I think this might be the year that we see LeBron just not have the gas in the tank to lead the team forward. And if Luka's hobbled at all, LeBron's going to have to step up and do that. And I think the athleticism of the Rockets might wear them down over a long series. So, I mean, Rockets in 7.
Good stuff. Now for our main events, we have the Nuggets versus the Timberwolves. This is a rematch of the 2024 second round. Back when the Wolves had Karl Anthony Towns. It was a very hard fought series. And at the end of the day, the Timberwolves were the team that was built to beat the Nuggets by just having a boatload of bigs on them and just totally harassing Jokic the entire time. But unfortunately, the Timberwolves do not have that anymore. They still have Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid, but offensively, the fit is weird there. And at the end of the day, like, yeah, Rudy Gobert does do best with on his defense by having one guy guard Jokic and then him being the guy to double and all in that scenario, and not even just being the guy to double, but also just being able to focus on the outside as well. So, but like, I do think that this Nuggets team is definitely much better than they were in 2024 with the addition of Cam Johnson and, you know, Bruce Brown and like all those other
Peyton Watson.
Peyton Watson for sure. So yeah. So they have they have a great supporting cast for sure. I'm gonna I'm gonna take the Nuggets this series. Also, I forgot to mention the fact that Anthony Edwards is dealing with the knee thing right now. So I'm gonna take the Nuggets in 5, just because I wanted to say 6 to be generous with the Wolves, but I do think that I also think that I think the Nuggets are the third best team in the league outside of the outside the Thunder and the Celtics. So I'll take the Nuggets here with these.
I had a really tough time with this, actually, because I'd done a little bit more digging into the Timberwolves recently, or watching of them rather. I think it really does come down to the Anthony Edwards, his health. I think if he's healthy for 7 games, they definitely have a chance to knock off the Nuggets here. They've gotten some good play from like Ayo Dosunmu.
Right.
But I do think the firepower of the Nuggets is tough to. It's going to be tough to knock off here. I do have the Nuggets here in 7, but you never know. Anthony Edwards gives you 7 healthy games of peak Anthony Edwards. It'd be tough to pick against him. But I just think the Nuggets have a lot they can throw at you. This is probably one of Jokic's most talented teams, I would say. I think I had about 3 or 4 of them on my fantasy team this year. Cam Johnson and obviously Jokic and Aaron Gordon. That's another guy who was hurt for most of the year, but kind of made his way back. He's been a little touch and go. I just think they're very deep, and I do have I have them in 7 here. I think it's just a tough matchup for both.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Nuggets in 6, and I'm gonna just deliver all my Rudy Gobert slander right now. I think Jokic is just going to dominate the series. Rudy Gobert does not deserve all the defensive players of the year if he can't even take on the other team's center. But we won't get into all of that. But yeah, I think Jokic is just going to have a field day. But that's, to be fair, Jokic has a field day with anyone and everyone. I mean, he dropped 40 on Wemby, didn't he, the other night? So Jokic is, like, he's just insane. I don't think that, again, similar to like what I was saying about Curry, like Curry's the most fun player I've ever watched. I think like Jokic is the most fundamentally sound player that I've ever watched. And you mentioned like Aaron Gordon as well. He's shooting the 3 so much better this year than he has in any other year. And I think that like opens up the entire floor for the Nuggets, way more than it ever has. Jamal Murray's healthy coming into this playoffs, which I always feel like other years is dealing with something. So I think the Nuggets are. I think for what you said, Anthony Edwards can have a couple Anthony Edwards games, but yeah, Nuggets in 6.
Rudy Gobert is the first defensive player of the year ever to not be good out on the perimeter. By the way, Wemby is horrible on the perimeter. By the way, so I don't know where that narrative came from, but we'll move on from that. But we'll go to the second round now. John, you have Thunder versus Lakers. Why don't you go through that real quick?
I have the Thunder in 6 here. I really just hang that on the potential of Austin Reeves being back and a healthier Luka. Granted, if they're going to 7 games with the Rockets, I'm not really sure that makes him that much healthier, but maybe he kind of nurses it along the way. But Thunder in 6, I think that they're just the more talented team.
And Thunder Rockets, I'll go Thunder in 4. The Rockets had like a great first night against the Thunder with Şengün had a great night. Cade had a pretty solid he was solid at certain moments, but I think that would be a brutal series. But yeah, KD going back and forth to OKC. Not even back and forth if they lose in 4. It's only the first 2 nights, but I don't trust this OKC team, and I think they're really weirdly structured, like I said, without VanVleet and Adams, and I think that they would just match up brutally with the Thunder. So between like no creator outside of Kevin Durant and maybe Reed Shepherd, I'm gonna say Rockets. Thunder in 4.
Same exact things that you just said, Chris. Thunder in 4.
Yeah. All right, so then we'll go to the conference. Oh no, not conference finals. Sorry. We still have to do the wait. Oh, I just realized that we did miss the Spurs Blazers. That is completely my fault. So yeah, we'll do the Spurs Blazers now. How about this? I'm assuming that we all have the Spurs. How many games do we think it's going to do? How many games do we think it's going to be in? I'm going to say Spurs in 4. Honestly,
I'm saying 4.
4 as well. I don't think it's a good matchup for the Trailblazers at all.
No, it is not. So, and I know the Spurs are a young team, but I think the talent gap is just way too big there.
Yeah.
But I don't, however, think the talent gap is too big between the Spurs and the Nuggets, where I think the Nuggets match up really well with the Spurs. The Jokic is gonna play both in and out. I think he'll give Wemby a lot of problems for sure. I think that if Jamal Murray's healthy for this series, and he's like looking like 2023 or even part of 2025 Jamal Murray, the Nuggets are going to win this series. And five might be too disrespectful, but I think the Nuggets are a much better team than the Spurs. I know the Spurs played awesome all year long, but in a playoff setting, give me Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray over just about anyone. So I'm going to say 6 just because I'm a coward, but I'm going to take the Nuggets over the Spurs in 6 games here.
Yeah, I got Nuggets over Spurs in 6 as well. I do not think that the Nuggets are a good matchup for the Spurs at all. I think if you put Wemby on Jokic, you bring him out to the 3-point line. Jokic really spreads the floor and extends the court a little bit. I don't think it's really that good of a matchup because it brings Wemby away from the hoop for protecting the rim. So I do think, like, for also reasons that I said earlier, is just Nuggets are a very deep team, and I think as long as they stay healthy, they're primed to make a run here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Nuggets in 7. For the same, I would love to see the Spurs just because Wemby's one of those guys that, like, I think he can be greatest of all time. When it's all said and done. But I think, like, if they were playing the Thunder, I would pick the Spurs over the Thunder. Just because I think there's fatigue there, and I think their styles of plays don't mesh. But for exactly what you mentioned, Jokic versus Wemby, it's still Jokic's league. I'm going with the Nuggets.
Awesome. So, now we got the conference finals between the Thunder and the Nuggets. It'll be a rematch of last year's second round. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the Nuggets in 7 games. I underestimated the Thunder last year. I did have them losing in the second round to the Clippers because of the matchup wise. But this year, and there was definitely I think it was partially Thunder hatred and also my love for the Clippers. But this year, I really think it's more so how much I believe in the Nuggets. I think the Jokic is being severely underestimated. I think that last couple of weeks he's been much better, but I think that he's been very clear. I think it's been Shea and Jokic 1 and 2 the entire season. I know people try to sneak in Wemby towards the end of the season, but I think the Jokic is easily the first or second best in the league. I think that the Nuggets have a great system built where they have like a 5-out offense. Aaron Gordon can match up great down the post with Isaiah Hardenstein, and they have some great wing defenders as well between Christian Brown, Bruce Brown, Peyton Watson, and like I said, if Jamal Murray is like back to who he was in the playoffs, which this is the best regular season that he's played in his entire career, I have no reason to not believe that he's going to raise his game in the playoffs as well. So as much as I believe in Shea to like carry this Thunder team on offense, I do doubt guys like J-Dub and Chet against like an experienced team, because like last year they almost lost to the Nuggets they beat them in 7 games, and it took like a lot of injuries to occur. So which I'm not saying that the Thunder are in some ways better given like how great they played without J-Dub, but I'm going to take the Nuggets in this series.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Nuggets as well. I do think that this is kind of their year. They do have, Jokic got hurt earlier in the year, maybe gave him a little bit more miles on his legs, which I think is interesting to see. I'm sure we'll talk about it when hopefully this matchup does happen in a couple weeks. But I got the Nuggets in 7. I think these are the 2 best teams in the West, and I think them battling it out for 7 games is the only way to decide. So, I do think, people. I don't think people sometimes forget that the Nuggets, with a healthy Aaron Gordon last year, might have a chance to knock off the Thunder on their way to one of the greatest seasons in the past 20 years. So I do have the Nuggets in 7.
I'm gonna go OKC in 7. I just remember watching OKC in the beginning of the year when they didn't have Shea, and they're just still dominating teams on the defensive end. Again, they didn't have Shea. I think, they didn't have J-Dub for a little bit too, and like just guys would step up. I feel like the Thunder are the team where it's just next one up, and there's always some guy stepping up for them. It doesn't matter like where it comes from, but someone's going to step in and step up for them. So I'm going to go with the Thunder. I think that just their style of defense is obviously no one's ever going to stop Jokic, going to stop the Nuggets offense, but I think they can frustrate them enough where over the course of 7 games, they wear them down. So give me Thunder.
All right. Great stuff, Pete. So yeah, you have a completely different series from me and John. So you have the final series would be the Thunder versus the Pistons, which would be a whole lot of fun. So why don't you dive into how you think that would pan out?
Yeah, I think it would be Thunder in 5. Honestly, unfortunately, I wish I'm hoping for a better finals than that. But Thunder have been there, done that. More experienced, best player on the court in Shea. I think probably the more complete team with all the strong role players they have coming off the bench. I know Detroit has that too, but again, I think in the playoffs it's different when your role players have been there before. So I think if that's what it happens to be, I think that would be one of the easier series for the Thunder actually in comparison to like who they'd have to get through in the West.
I totally agree. Yeah, if that were the series, I wouldn't like the Pistons' chances at all. And I kind of said the same thing about last year with the Pacers. But the difference was that the Pacers were a team that was able to even if they weren't like the best defensive team, they moved like such a fast pace that they were to keep up with the Thunder on the offensive end. So I think the Pistons would have a much harder time keeping up with the Thunder there. John, I've been speaking first for a lot of these matchups, but since we're the finals, why don't you give your takeaways on what would be a Celtics versus Nuggets finals?
Yeah, I think this could be a really great matchup. I had the Celtics at 7. I can't even say it with a straight face because what did you think I was going to say? obviously super biased, but I do think it still has merit. I'm not picking like the Suns to make a deep run here. I feel like this has been like a potential or like dream finals matchup for the NBA or just like Celtics Nuggets fans for a couple
Like 4
years
years.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because they've always been like, top 2, 3 at the least team in the West. And, some years, I think the year before the Celtics and Nuggets made a run. Next year, the Celtics made a run. They never kind of synced up with winning their conferences. But yeah, I think there's really not much else to say that hasn't been said about both teams here. I think they're both battle tested and they're both very talented. And, whether the Celtics win or not, I think a potential matchup of those two is exciting, and I think it'd be really good for the NBA.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. Yeah, I would think it would be 7 games as well. The Celtics, Jokic matchup would be interesting. I know the Celtics really struggled when it was Porzingis being the primary defender on Jokic. Like, I feel like that's a very poor matchup though because of how unathletic Porzingis is. I always thought that Horford would have been the better matchup, so I always thought that was going to be the deciding factor. But the Celtics don't have a guy like Horford for that, so that would be the toughest thing. So I think again it would have to be a thing to where similar to what the Wolves did in 2024. I think they would have to have, like Vucevic, Cade, Tatum, Garza, just like all of them, just like going after him and just like and like trying to leave the corners open and then hoping that Peyton Watson and Cameron Johnson don't shoot well from 3 that series, which I don't know. Any team that has Nikola Jokic and gambling on other players to go cold from 3 when they're going to be wide open is always a gamble. But so I'm not sure how that would be. But I do trust Joe Mazzulla to make those adjustments. And Dave Adelman's a great head coach too. But I think it would be an amazing story if the Celtics came back and won the finals after everything that happened with Jason Tatum, and especially if Jason Tatum won Finals MVP. It would be like a Disney story. All right, so Pete has the Pistons, the Thunder beating the Pistons in the finals. John and I have the Celtics over the Thunder. The Celtics for the Nuggets. But yeah, we got next 2 weeks are going to be very fun to see for sure. We're very much over, but I did still want to we've been doing a lot the past weeks. I did still want to do one of those top 10 questions. And this question would mix in well with it. If you guys got to run, that's fine too. But I'm thinking since I have it in front of me, I want to ask you guys a top 10 question if we're good with that. Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
Cool. So I want you guys to tell me the top 10 players who have the most total points in the playoffs since the year 2000.
LeBron James.
LeBron James is number 1.
Can you say it one more time?
Top 10 total points since the year 2000 in the playoffs.
Oh, okay. So that's I can't believe that's 26 years ago.
2000. Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant. Yeah.
Kevin Durant is number 3.
James Harden.
Steph Curry.
James Harden is number 8. Steph Curry is number 5.
Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wade is number 7.
Peter, I thought you were going to beat me to the Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
So 2, 4. Yeah, so 2, 4, 6, 9, 10.
Trying to think of like
Kobe.
Yeah.
Kobe's number 2.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the wild card, Russell Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook is number 14. So one guy off the list.
Not Dame, is it?
No, not Dame. Dame isn't in the top 25.
I'm trying to think of like teams that have made it far into the playoffs, like consistently every.
That is a very good strategy.
Tim Duncan.
Tim Duncan's number 4.
going to be a wild card here. I don't think it's going to hit, but Pau Gasol.
Pau Gasol is not on the list. He's not in the top 25.
What about Clay?
Klay Thompson's number 15.
So. Kawhi?
Kawhi's number 12. So very close.
Kyrie?
Kyrie is not in the top 25. We need number 6, 9, and 10.
Your guy, Paul Pierce?
Paul Pierce is the first guy off the list. He's number 11.
That's tough.
I'll say you're missing at least one very obvious one. I would say, yeah, these other two are
Shaq.
Shaq is number 10.
Yeah. Is that the obvious one?
Yeah.
Giannis?
Yeah, no, Giannis is not in the top. Is he in the not in the top 25? I guess he doesn't have enough. Is too many first round exits, I guess.
Yeah.
Derek White?
So, yeah, let me know if you guys need hints because, yeah, it's no big deal if you want to fight it through though.
6 and 9?
Yep. Okay, so I'll say neither of these guys are active.
Okay.
I would say Tracy McGrady, but he didn't really make any runs.
No, not enough first. Yeah, not too many first round exits.
Derrick Rose got hurt too early.
Yep. Okay, so one of these guys is, I would say, top 5 at his position all time, and in my opinion, one of the 20 best players all time as well.
Kevin Garnett?
No, Kevin Garnett's number 25. I would think along that track though.
So thinking big man.
One of the most famous runs of all time.
Oh, Dirk.
Yep, number 9. And then one more. I would say he's definitely the worst guy in the top 10 for sure.
Allen Iverson?
No, not Allen Iverson.
That's a good guess.
Yeah, I thought it'd be higher. Yeah, he's definitely the worst. Definitely the worst out of the 10. Not in super. I wouldn't say legend for sure, but like he's not like a superstar. Like when you say like list all the best players all time, he won't be anywhere near that list. But like Hall of Famer all time great for sure, but just not in that one of ones.
DeMar DeRozan?
No, not DeMar DeRozan.
Doesn't he still play?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I would think along the lines of Pete's thought process of just constant far playoff runs.
Chris Bosh?
No, not Chris Bosh.
Oh, yes.
Better than Chris Bosh, I'd say. Probably. Yeah. I'll give you another hint, if you'll take it. He made of one of the guys on the list.
Hey, what?
Teammate of one of the guys on the list.
Oh. Tony Parker?
Tony Parker, number 6.
Oh.
That's
nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's just when you go to the Western Conference Finals every year.
Every year,
Yep.
yeah.
And then Manu was 13, actually.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Chris Paul 16, Jason Tatum 17, Jimmy Butler 18, Ray Allen 19, Jaylen Brown 20. So, so like we said, constant conference finals get you places.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Yeah, definitely one of our longer shows. That's what happens usually for the playoffs because we dive into every series. But yeah, Peter, we definitely appreciate you coming on, especially for a longer one. But yeah, we're super excited for the playoffs to start. It's going to be one hell of a time. Definitely one of the more unpredictable playoffs in a while, in my opinion. So very excited for that. But yeah, like I said, Peter, thanks for coming on. John, always a pleasure. We'll be back next week for sure. Playoffs start on Saturday afternoon, which we're very excited about. This has been another episode of the All American Hoops podcast. Be sure to follow me on all social media platforms at All American Hooper on Instagram and on TikTok, at American Hooper on Twitter. Check me out on Fluent versus Chill versus Everyone on Wednesday nights via the Sports Fluent Media at 8:30 p.m. And be sure to check out my column on sportsfluent.com, in which I'll have at least 2 or 3 articles coming out this weekend. So be on the lookout for that. Until next time, this has been another episode of the All American Hoops podcast. Until next time, keep grinding and stay hooping. Have a great night, everyone.
See you, boys.